Hello everybody and welcome to episode 5 of building an Imperial Refinery in LEGO. In today's episode I get a ton of progress done on the interior of the base, and I'm very happy with a lot of it. I also get the basic layout for the first story of the interior of the base done, and I get the updated design for the ring of the pit done. On top of that, I get a couple of small detail items designed for the mock. So without further ado, let's get into all the progress I've made in today's episode. Okay everybody, so getting right into some huge progress. As you can see, I have a ton of the interior done, as well as quite a bit of planning, at least started. And then I have a couple other small little things to show off. Starting with the progress that I've made on the interior, showing off just a lot of the little details. There is this lift here, which currently has no self-stabilization, so it has to have a support. On the lift, I have a few things, just some crates and such, and then two small builds that I will be including in the mock. One of which are these barriers, and you see them in Jedi Fallen Order and Star Wars Battlefront 2 are the two main places I've seen them. And this is my design, and I'm very happy with it. The only thing I would love if I could change would be getting rid of that little gap there, but it's really not too noticeable, especially from a distance. And pretty much other than that, I'm super happy with the design. I even quite like the studs on the side. I think it adds some needed texture. And so I have two of those built up so far. Moving on to the next custom build is this E-Web cannon, which I'm very proud of. It's a little hard to see with this lighting since it's all black, but I will move it to a separate little area and show you how I built it and all the little details on it. So let's go to that. Okay, so if I remove the barrier and the stormtrooper, you can take a closer look at the E-Web that I have built. Now, I will start with this power box, which I personally really like. I think the grills in between the plate and tile add some really good detail. Now, moving on to the actual turret, there is only one big flaw, and you just saw it. The top part breaks off of the tripod a lot easier than pretty much any other design I've seen. So that is a big problem, but the tripod I am fairly happy with. I don't love the fact that the legs are so malleable, so you can move them and accidentally offset the whole E-Web very easily, but I'm really happy with how it looks, and I think it works very well. And it just uses this helmet attachment, or I think it's actually a bucket handle, to hold in the actual E-Web, like the barrel part of it. And this skate is what goes into that bucket handle. And that is just stacked on some pretty simple barrel design. The only complicated part really is this that uses the cone piece, and you stick it in the very slight overlap of that Technic piece. It holds in pretty well, it's pretty strong. Putting it back together is usually a lot harder than what you just saw. I got super lucky and got it first try. Usually that takes me about 5 minutes to put together, which is really irritating. And so if you want to build this design. You can probably just build it off of what you're seeing, but keep in mind that that part right there is very irritating to deal with. Moving on to the walls and track for the lift. Starting on the left, moving right, I have this panel and lever down here that would be like an emergency switch to lift the lift to the top and seal off the platform. There are a few of these small little panel details that I quite enjoy, and plan on probably redoing a little bit of this and adding a couple more of these types of things. And dead center, I have these pipes that are in an indent, and I really like how this turned out. I think it looks super cool, especially with the red on the right and nothing on the left of that gray pipe. I think it adds a lot of depth to the wall. Now, before moving on, I want to take a closer look at these light panels, and I want to show you the difference between what I've seen used in most mocks and these designs right here. So without further ado, let's go and check those out. So this is the design that I see everyone use, and this is my design. I personally think it adds a lot more depth and allows it to stand out more using this piece here, which is a rounded tile, just a 1x1. You will need 12 of them if you want the design I have used here. I personally think the rounded tiles make it look a lot better than just with plates. Moving on to the last couple of details, I have these, I don't even know what they would be, like, actually used for, but they're chain links wrapped around a 1x2, and moving on to the last wall section I have done is just this little section over here. I have a stickered piece and this little vent. Now, you might be wondering what this wall is, and this is going to be accessing a filtration room. I'll show you a picture of the concept art for Jedi Fallen Order. It has these weird, like, cone vats, pretty much, which I want to incorporate 2, maybe 3 if I can fit 3 in this room back here, which will go along like that and split up this large section here into 2. If you're wondering why this wall looks so blank, that is because it is a placeholder wall and does not matter at all. It was just so I could figure out exactly what size I needed to fill this gap the best I could, as well as figure out where I wanted the door. Now, before moving on to the extra little bits, I want to explain a little more of the design in this corner here, and I'm pretty much just going to use this hallway space or open area as storage. I'm going to have some Easter eggs and little details that I would otherwise not be able to include. So that'll be in this corner, and this wall separating the rooms will be 3 wide, so I can incorporate extra detail, and mainly so I could make this easier on myself. Moving on to the second to last thing I want to show in today's episode, that is these Imperial flags that I want to use in this mock. Now, I have not actually checked if there are black versions of these Imperial tiles. I feel like there probably are, but I've not looked yet, so if you do know, please leave that down in the comments with your opinion on which looks better, the red or the dark red. I personally don't really care. I think with the red tile, the dark red looks better, just because it actually pops on the flag a lot more, but I think the normal red is more accurate, so it's kind of a toss-up between which one is better. And the other thing that doesn't really matter to your opinions is that I had barely enough red tile to finish one of these, so dark red would be easier because I wouldn't have to order pieces, but don't take that as a reason why the red is not good. So please leave your opinion down in the comments below and let me know which one you like better. The last bit of progress I want to show off in today's episode is the updated design for the edge of the pit. Now, this design works much better and overall looks better too because it is even on every single panel and it doesn't have that staggering look. The only problem I have is that I need to fill a small gap with these skis. Not a big deal, but I would have loved if I could have filled that without using the skis, but if you look, the ski fits pretty much perfectly in that gap. Getting into the design, the part you've been waiting for, these panels are actually simpler. They're just 1x6 with the panels, and then you have a 1x1 bracket that's too tall on each one that is connected by a 1x4, and on the front you have the 1x1 one tall versions that hold on the cheese slopes that are attached to a 1x3. And then in between there is this panel that's just a couple of 1x2s and a 1x3 on a 1x6, and this fills the gap between them and is just connected by a ball joint, which is also how I have connected the middle sections. I am very happy with how this turned out. The only thing I have left to design is the wall sections that connect, which is probably the hardest part if I'm going to be honest. And there is one last change that I do have to mention, is the red pipe that ran along this section here. I have decided to remove. I got a comment on last episode that it stood out too much, and after looking at it for a minute, I do agree the red pipe did stand out too much, and it was also taking up some space that kind of made it feel more crowded, and I am quite happy with how it looks blank. I will probably put something there so the ladder doesn't look so useless, but I think it looks a lot better without the red pipe. Sadly, that is going to wrap up today's episode of building an Imperial refinery in LEGO. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing if you do want to support the channel. And if you want to stay updated on the most recent video, consider hitting the notification bell as well. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and see you guys in the next episode of Building an Imperial Refinery in LEGO.